What's up, everybody? Welcome aboard to Bubba's Bottom Line, and this is our weekly edition, not to be confused with the update. Well, what do we got here? Well, first thing we got is Astros versus Dodgers in the World Series. So that's interesting. That should make for a good series. And of course, we've got a market that just finished making 6 consecutive weekly highs. It is fascinating to watch a market that just goes up and up and up, and with no real great reason, and with no volume, and with no volatility. But the one thing we have to remember is it's up. It doesn't matter why. It doesn't matter how it's getting there. The fact is that it is. So if you're trying to fight this, you're losing a lot of money, and giving up a lot of opportunity. You know, one of the big things we often talk about is not only the trade, but the opportunity cost. You know, when you're convinced that the market has to go one way and they're going the other way, then you're giving up that opportunity cost. So again, there's no reason to get in front of this. Right now, the market wants to go higher, and it doesn't really matter. I think the biggest key, if we go back to last week to look at, was Thursday. The markets were down big in the morning, and I got up at 3 a.m. and the Dow was on 150. By the end of the day, it made all-time new highs. So we're not really in a spot that the market's ready to go down yet. So until that is the case, there's no reason to try to fight that case. This is important to understand, that you have to sit and wait patiently for the opportunity. Now, I don't think the data is very good. I keep hearing how good it is, but it doesn't make sense. And I would certainly appreciate it. I know there's thousands and thousands of people that watch this, but if anybody can tell me differently, please do. I'm not that hard-headed that I wouldn't believe something, but from what I see, it does not look like we have an overall improvement in the economy. I don't see it. I see records going up, but I see also the Fed has pigeon-holed and forced everybody into one investment class, right? One asset class. They have not allowed the free market structure to work. What they've done is they've said, okay, if you want to make money on your investments, if you want to invest, then you can't put your money in the bank, you can't put your money in bonds, you can't put your money anywhere but the stock market. So, okay, I get it, but that's one of the reasons that we're seeing it. But in the meantime, we can't fight that overall exuberance, or whatever you want to call it. I mean, people want to call this irrational exuberance. Well, I don't get that crazy here with irrationality, because right now the markets, they're so quiet. If there's volume, I could say it was irrational, but this is the typical retail rally that retailers are pushing up, not the big customers, not the commercials. How do we know? The volume is way down. Excuse me. So if volume is way down, that means you're not getting a lot of the commercial money in here. There is a lot of money outflowing out of the market as well, but again, it's still going up. Now, if you look at jobs, I think jobs suck, my personal opinion. I don't care what the pundits say. I don't care what the reports say. The reports are only given to us through a series of, however they come out from the government. Now, I don't know about you, but I'm not a big believer in everything that comes out of the government. But I can just see overall, places I shop, the places I eat, things are down. People are not making as much money, and they're getting a lot of crappy jobs. So if you like crappy jobs, then yeah, okay, their jobs are good. Yeah, we got 4.2% unemployment. Yeah, but nobody's making any money. And if you're a guy or gal that makes $55,000 a year, you've got to have health insurance, you've got to pay for it yourself, half of your money goes to paying health insurance. So where is the fair and equitable settlement here where we can all do well? I know a lot of people that are working a lot more jobs trying to get out of the hole. So, although we are making new highs, and we do continue to see markets rally. And again, I'm not telling you they're not going to go higher. They can go as much as they want. But at the end of the day, these are things that we continue to ignore. I love the fact that we have now the pundits telling us that this time is different again. Now, again, each week we get something new out of this. Each week we get more convinced that they're never going down again. Now, true free markets do go down. Again, a sell-off in this market would not be a bad thing. A sell-off would probably be a healthier thing. But this is what happens when you get near market tops. Now, again, I cannot tell you when the market is going to top. All right? I don't want you to think I'm calling it top today. I don't know when it's going to top. But I can also tell you that at some point it will. But the truth is that you, as a trader or an investor, don't want to sell the absolute top because you'll miss a lot of the down move when it finally comes. You want to wait for the down move, then the rally back into resistance, and then the sell, okay? And this is really what we look at. I mean, the markets, it's been 20 years since the markets have done what they've done now. Basically have 6 consecutive weekly higher closes. Now, what was happening 20 years ago? Oh, we had the internet bubble. Now, I say this is a bubble. Now, again, it doesn't, all bubbles are not the same, all right? Again, just because we may not have internet companies, putting out .com and going up $50 a day, but today you've got stocks going up every day with no reason to go up as much as going. The earnings ratio, the price to earnings, now I am not a fundamental trader, but I do know the details. And comparable, these price to earnings ratios are comparable with 1929. Now again, I'm not telling you there's going to be a crash tomorrow. I'm just saying that when people like the Fed chair, Janet Yellen, and when other executives come out to calm you and tell you that everything's okay, that's usually the sign like when the manager says, I'm sticking behind my manager and he gets fired the next day. Well, this is what we're looking at, is that the markets are starting to get assurances from outside. What does a solid, good market need to be assured of? All right. So, again, we're not predicting that the market goes down tomorrow. We're not telling you that there's going to be a big problem in the next couple of days. But when you look at the commodity space, okay, our poor farmers, grains are in the toilet. All right. Thank God soybeans are a little bit, but corn is near lows. Wheat is near lows. Now, again, for you and me, we don't think about it like that, but these guys have already borrowed, some millions of dollars to plant that, to pull it out, to sell it, and they're going to have to sell it at a loss. All right, so there's our government, our Fed at work, where we bring these big things out and, forget about, what it takes to build everything. So there's a big problem. You've got problems underneath hiding the banks, all right? But yet we keep telling you how good they are. Of course they're good, because of course if something goes wrong, we're going to be right there to bail them out again. Again, these are things that just are illogical to a guy like me, because I don't get it. Why should I continue to bail out the banks? It doesn't make a lot of sense to me that I have to continue to have my assets inflated so I can help pay for the bank's stupidity. It makes no sense to me, all right? I mean, they have I'd love to be a bank myself. No risk to my bad loans and make all the money when they're good. It just, look, the bottom line is I think America's biggest fear today would be the government corruption. Now, do I know that for a fact? No, but I can speculate pretty good. There is a ton of corruption that goes on in there. I mean, the lobbyists and the politicians. Why do these guys want to be in jobs for that long a period of time? I mean, think about it this way. Why would a politician spend $40 million to get elected to a $150,000 or $190,000 a year job? Why would you spend $40 million of your own money to get a $150,000 a year job? I don't know. Doesn't make a lot of sense to me. All right. Now, I think that as we look forward, we had the tax cuts last week. The talk, and it looks like they're closer. They got the budget passed, so we've now added more debt to the system, right? I mean, it's going to be another. Rand Paul, who did not vote for it, we're just adding another $1.5 trillion. You got another $1.5 trillion onto the balance sheet. Okay, so my kids will get to pay more, right? But when you look at it, it's just so silly that we don't have to. Our government doesn't have to follow the rules of normal people. Okay, that's where my problems come in. Is I have to live on a budget, you have to live on a budget. Why don't they have to live on a budget? Why do we have people voting? Okay, let's start cutting away congressmen. Let's cut their pay. why is it that the masses always take the brunt of the beatdown when the jackasses that are in Washington, they keep making more money, they get better health care, they don't follow the same laws we do, but yet here we are, same thing. Now that's where I'm a little upset. Donald Trump, one of his first promises was to talk about term limits. Has anybody heard about term limits? He's too busy talking about the stock market. Now, again, I'm a fan of Donald Trump. I wrote about him a year and a half before he got elected. I think he's going to do a good job. I think he's got too much outside, but I think it's time he stops talking about the stock market, because the stock market's going to collapse. Again, not forever. Crash. I shouldn't say collapse. That's a bad word. The stock market's going to crash. Okay, and when it does, and it'll come back just like it always does. But quit worrying about the stock market, because you complained about that when Obama had it. And now it's the same thing. Nothing has really changed other than you have taken away a lot of regulations. I appreciate that. I appreciate everything that you're trying to do. Unfortunately, the crooks around you don't want to help. That makes it a little bit different of a problem. All right. But again, the swamp is not helping you, and I respect everything that you're trying to do. Okay. And I think that you've done as good as you can do based on what you have surrounding you. I mean, when you have these people surrounding you, it is brutal. But we're going to step out here for a break. This is Bubba's Bottom Line, Todd Bubba Horowitz, and come back with more. Make sure you check out my radio show every day on LibertyTalk.fm, 2 to 3 Eastern, The Bubba Show. And also, we work very hard on financial literacy for high schools, and we need to try to raise some money. So if you want to check out my Patreon link, that's Patreon, patreon.com/Bubba Trading. Be great if you could help out. Again, we'll do some special things for those who do. In the meantime, this is Bubba's Bottom Line. We're going to step out here for a break. We'll be right back with more of Bubba's Bottom Line after the break. Welcome back to Bubba's Bottom Line. Todd Bubba Horowitz. And just a reminder, don't forget to get the Bubba Show every single day at 2 to 3 Eastern at LibertyTalk.fm. And also, if you want to get Bubba's daily updates, you can get those by going to BubbaTrading.com. You can sign right up for it. It's free. Anyways, so we love talking about Donald Trump, and again, I think he's doing a good job based on what he has to work with. It's hard to work with a load of manure and form it into a Picasso. I think he's doing a good job. I think he'll work on it, but again, I think there's certain things that I don't think that are part of the president's agenda, and I think talking about the stock market should be one of them. But now we've got the talk of a new Fed chair. Who's going to replace Janet Yellen? And it's very interesting. I mean, President Trump likes that lower dollar. He likes that, that low interest rate environment. So we'll see who he ends up picking. I mean, the person that the favored, the rumor is that going to be a hawk, which does make a lot of sense. So we'll see what happens. In the meantime, the Fed is favored to raise rates, 91% now in December, the Fed funds rate suggests. But I think the interesting story of the week, besides the business, was the JFK and releasing some of the JFK files. Why? I mean, again, does anybody really want to know today? Obviously, there's always been a lot of rumors surrounding what happened in the White House when he was president. There's a lot of things, how he got elected in the first place. Chicago was the key spot that pushed Illinois over, right? So, there was always a lot of things behind all of them. But does anybody really want to know? I guess that would be my question. All right. Do we want to know, what happened with Marilyn Monroe? Do we want to know what happened? Are we into the deep state now? Is this going to be something? I mean, I suppose it'd be interesting reading to know, but I think I would venture to say that a lot of the rumors that are out there, that have been out there for 40 years or 50 years, are probably true anyways. All right. So again, I don't know. It's becoming a very big deal. I think that that's a concern, but is it any bigger concern than, O'Reilly, supposedly, now again, I don't have facts on this, but this is what I've heard, that he paid off $32 million. Did you ever hear of a brothel, young man? I guess, that to me is just like, it's so nonsensical, okay, that you would A, do it, and B, pay $32 million. I mean, really? It's a thing, but I think the big story here is that Fox knew about it and hired him and re-upped this contract. And I think this is a problem, which we're going to get to in my opinion piece later, okay? But that they hired him back under those circumstances, knowing what he did. But I think that one of the big stories right now is also his Bitcoin, or the cryptocurrency space. Now, I'm going to give you a quick history. All right, I thought Bitcoin was phony when it first started. All right, I didn't understand it. I still don't really understand it, but I thought it was a little bit crooked. Okay, and I'm finding out that it's not. I'm understanding the blockchain technology and all these other things that are going on. But now everybody wants to call it a ridiculous bubble, and it's going to pop, and it's whatever. And I'm saying, well, maybe it's not. Now, it could certainly be in a price bubble, okay? I mean, over 6,000 brand new record highs again. It could be bubblish, but I will say one thing different here with Bitcoin versus other products, all right, versus the stock market today, versus our currencies today, versus other things, because what we do, the stock market, housing market, those are all manipulated by central banks, okay? Japan owns 55% of their stock market. The United States is bought into a lot of our equities, the Fed. And of course, they prop this whole thing up, which is like the Fed put. And we don't really have a true free market. The housing market, when interest rates are low, housing prices are higher. Interest rates rise, housing prices are going to come down. So it's more of a, it goes back to how they've spun this fiat currency system. Now, the one thing I will say about the Bitcoin or the cryptocurrency space in general, and again, I'm not like, oh my God, I'm going to go out and buy all Bitcoin. I don't own any right now. Full disclosure, I was going to buy some stuff, and I'm still going to do it. I just haven't had time to do it. But I believe the idea and the theory behind it is solid. I believe that the blockchain is already pretty much in use, and I think IBM has helped develop a lot of that, and I know that Goldman Sachs is a lot, and I know that even the guy that in the name of JP Morgan, okay, Jamie Dimon, said that it was phony. Of course, he's using the blockchain technology as well. So I wonder about, I always wonder when somebody tells me something, when I know they're somehow involved. But the reason it may not be a bubble, okay, now maybe, again, I'm not saying that it's not. I mean, there is the fear of missing out. There is a lot of things going on here underneath the scenes. But the one thing I can say about the Bitcoin itself and the cryptocurrency space is those are true free markets. They are not dependent on anything else. Those are purely traded by a supply and demand or a true price discovery model without outside interference. So that is something that I think makes sense, which is why it may or may not be in a bubble. Again, I don't trade it really. I mean, I'd be afraid to trade it, to be honest with you. I don't know how liquid it is. I don't know how the cost. There's a lot of things to it now. When they get it up on the CBOE, and it starts trading there. I mean, there is one exchange that traded like 1 million contracts last week or something that is now offering some type of derivative there. But at the end of the day, I don't know, again, when it goes to the CBOE, Chicago Board of Options Exchange, I'll get involved with it and trade it. But until then, I think, again, is it a bubble? Maybe. But one thing it is truly a free market currency, which the others are not. There is no manipulation of that currency. There is no Fed central bank interference dictating what value should be. So that to me would be something that I would be more comfortable with in that perspective. But you've got two sides of this coin, pardon the pun, but you've got the ones that say, it's great and it's going up forever, and the ones that say it's a bubble. And it's probably both. Okay, it could be a truly viable currency going forward or something like that. I believe that many, many people are very unhappy with the central banking system, me being one of them. I think that the central banking system has become totally ridiculous and has no place in our society. I think we've seen this if you go back to the 1600s in England and all the way through, that the central banking system is only a way to destroy wealth and not really help anybody. Now, again, if you want somebody to stop the runs on the banks, if there is ever another run on the bank, then I can understand if we could do something. But you can't have, in my opinion, somebody who's dictating the value and where we can go and telling you what your dollar should be worth. Our dollars now are down in the toilet, right? Now, does it really matter? Well, I mean, it only matters supposedly to the commodities and the dollar-denominated commodities. But think about it this way, right? The dollar has fallen since the election. After the initial burst up to 104, the dollar fell to 91, which is about a 10% reduction. In the meantime, the products that are supposed to be benefited most on a falling dollar also went down. So tell me how the logic of that all works. Okay, it does not work. That's the problem. And that's why I think that the separation now between the actual dollar, now again, the correlation will come back at some point because obviously that's how it's priced. But it doesn't have to be correlated every day. And I think that's one of the bigger problems. But the biggest thing is that the disadvantage we have is that the Fed can manipulate those currencies to then reduce the value, which is like issuing a secondary on the cash in your pocket. That to me is a problem, okay? And that's why I think the Bitcoin or the cryptocurrencies have a life, because you've got big companies that take Bitcoin as payment. Almost every offshore site also takes Bitcoin as payment. So they're believers. You know, these are not dumb people, all right? They're taking this as payment. Now, whether or not they're converting it right into cash right away, and I don't know what they're doing with it, but these are not dumb people taking it. So I wouldn't be totally dismissive of the Bitcoin. I think one of the reasons that you haven't seen gold and silver run as much as they should have been running is because of the Bitcoin and the cryptocurrency world. I think they're taking away some of the buyers that would be actually buying into gold and silver. Now they're buying into Bitcoin. Why? Well, because at the end of the day, it's a lot easier to move Bitcoin around than it is to move gold around. All right. So if you're on the run, or if you're, if you were in Greece when that went down, you couldn't get your gold out. Right? If you were somewhere else that you couldn't get your money out on Bitcoin, it's digital, so you can walk right out with it. I think that makes a big difference, especially if you're in cash and you want to leave the United States with more than 10,000. You have it in Bitcoin if you do. I mean, again, there's a lot of benefits to it. Again, I'm still afraid of it, but there is a lot of benefits to it. In the meantime, we're going to step out here for our second break and come back with my opinion piece. This is Bubba's Bottom Line, Top Bubba Horse. Make sure you get the Bubba Show every day, 2 to 3 Eastern at LibertyTalk.fm. And also check out my link at Patreon, patreon.com/BubbaTrading.com. Not /BubbaTrading, not .com. And also get signed up for Bubba's Daily Updates. We'll be right back after the break with more of Bubba's Bottom Line and my opinion. Welcome back to Bubba's Bottom Line. Todd Bubba Horowitz with you. And of course, I always have an opinion on everything. And listen, I got a big mouth. I understand. And I'm not afraid to use it. But I really think that some of things need to be addressed. And this Harvey Weinstein and his brother and Bill O'Reilly and all these pigs, I think this is a real problem in this country. And I believe that the people that helped hide it for them are just as guilty as the guys that were doing it. I think in this country, it's time. We've got so much divisiveness in this country today. And we've got so many issues. It's almost like we're going backwards in time to bring back all this hatred and all these things that have happened and all the race and religion and all these different things back, because people don't speak up and don't stand up. And I think this Harvey Weinstein and deal and what he did to those poor girls. Now, again, I've heard people say, well, the girls deserved it. They did it. It was part of getting the part. It was, it was the old joke in Hollywood, the casting couch. But, this is 2017. And I know a lot of things have happened over the years that couldn't happen today. And, this goes with the JFK files, all these things that are going on. But when you're dealing with people, you got to have respect. You have to quit with the crap. And you have to start to treat everybody with total respect. And you cannot force yourself on anybody. I think that is a problem. And I think it's a much bigger problem than we even know today. I'm very concerned, and this is why. Believe me, if you think Harvey Weinstein is the only one in Hollywood that has done this or is doing this, you're wrong. All right. Now, again, this ties back also to Hillary Clinton. Now, she comes out with her bombastic remarks about President Trump all the time, and it's fine. Look, they're going to battle. It's 2-year-olds doing their thing. But what Hillary Clinton did to many of these women that President Bill Clinton did, that abused over the years, this is not, a new story in the White House, right? And, what Bill Clinton did to many of those women over the years, we only heard about the Monica Lewinskys and some of the others, but you could bet there was a lot of them. And Hillary Clinton berated these women and tore them apart. And I think this is the problem, the double standard sometimes, the way that we let things go on. And that's why we can't allow these things to continue like this. I think the Bill O'Reilly, settling for $32 million and then getting his contract renewed from Fox. I don't know. I don't know how they could renew his contract. I think that's kind of a sad state of affairs of where we are today. And that's almost like going backwards. Again, I think it goes back to the respect of everybody. Men, women, black, white, yellow, purple, green, whatever. Again, it doesn't matter. I think that the mistakes we've made, and of course we've made a lot of mistakes in history, but we've now learned from those mistakes. And instead of going back into those things, we need to go forward. And that's why people need to step up and stop the things that you see. We can no longer, let's not be like the Federal Reserve and sweep these problems under the rug as well. These problems can be headed off and save a lot of innocent, in this case, women, a lot of heartache. Okay, and I'm sure there's men involved too. I'm sure that the casting couch goes both ways and we just don't hear about it. But at some point in time, okay, we've got to be a one America, but we also have to step up for our fellow man and woman and child, obviously, and stop the nonsense. I think that, again, it's a tragedy, and you have people like Hillary Clinton kind of defending Harvey, not giving back the money that he donated. And again, the money is the money, but again, what I want to see is where's the outrage from all the others that have been done. We have to prevent this from happening again, not let it continue. And I think that is the problem. And that, I know this is not business related, but it is concerning, because I think that we're far too forgiving in certain areas, and we let too many things slip by. And if you think you do it there, I know they do it, most likely in the government. There's a lot of areas that this needs to be lifted up and needs to be straightened away, and we cannot continue to let it live on this way. That's just my opinion. This is Todd Bubba Horowitz, Bubba's Bottom Line. As always, thank you so much for being a part of the show, and don't forget the Bubba Show, every day 2 to 3 Eastern. Have a great day, everybody. Thank you so much. We'll see you later.